Hey everybody, in this video we are going to graph piecewise functions. First, we need to make sure we know how to graph a line. In order to graph a piecewise function, you have to be able to graph a line. So this line right here has a y-intercept, y-intercept of 1, and it has a slope of 2 or 2 over 1, so that's m, the slope. It's got a rise of 2 and a run of 1, so it's up 2 and right 1, and down 2 and left 1 to keep that same slope all the way through the graph, and there is our line. Here we've got y equals 4, so that means the line we're going to graph, no matter what the x value is, the y value is always 4. So the y-intercept is 4. When x is 1, y is 4. When x is negative 1, y is 4. No matter what x is, y is always 4 on this horizontal line. Now, we are going to apply graphing lines to graphing piecewise functions. So our first piecewise function has 2 pieces to it. We're going to graph f of x equals x. F of x is just function notation. It's the same as y equals x, but only in the domain where x is greater than or equal to 0. So right here at 0 is going to be a cutoff, and I said greater than, but that's less than or equal to 0. So this is going to be the cutoff. We can only graph to the left of this line right here where x equals 0. So I'm graphing y equals x, which is the same as y equals 1x plus 0, so the y-intercept is 0. Now that's right on the edge of this domain, x is greater than or equal to 0, so I'm going to put a circle right there. Now slope of 1 would be up 1 and right 1, and I could do that forever, but I can only graph this less than or equal to 0, and to the right is greater than. So instead of up 1 and right 1, I need to go down 1 and left 1. And now I'm actually in the domain where x is less than or equal to 0. So I can graph this way. So this is the graph of the first piece. But one last thing to talk about on that piece of the graph is that x is not just less than 0, it's less than or equal to 0. So I need to fill this in to say that it actually could be right there also. The next piece is f of x equals 3, or y equals 3, and that's a horizontal line up 3, but I can only graph it for x is greater than 0. So the domain is all x is greater than 0. X is 0 is right here, the y-axis. So right here is where it's going to start, and it's a horizontal line to the greater than side, the right side of 0. Now, do I want to fill this in or leave it empty? It's greater than but not equal to, so I leave it empty, saying that it actually gets infinitely close to that point, but it's not going to touch it. So next I have y equals, or f of x equals x plus 1, so that means it's got a y-intercept of 1, but my domain is all x is greater than 2. So x is greater than 2 means to the right of this line where x is 2. Now the y-intercept is 1, and that's on the y-axis. So it would cross the y-axis right here, but that's not inside the domain where x is greater than 2. So what I need to do is follow this slope of 1 from the y-intercept, up 1, right 1, up 1, right 1, and now I'm at the domain. So I'm going to say this is my starting point, and I'm going to continue up 1 and right 1, and that's what the graph looks like. And it is greater than but not equal to, so I'm going to leave that open. Next I have y equals 2x, which means the y-intercept is 0, so that would be right here, only for x is less than or equal to 2. Now since my y-intercept is within the domain less than or equal to 2, I can actually put a point here. Now I have a slope of 2, which means up 2 and right 1. Up 2, right 1. And that puts me on the edge of my domain, so I'm going to put a circle there. The opposite of up 2 and right 1 is down 2 and left 1, and that keeps the same slope. And that is what this other part of the graph looks like. Now, it is less than or equal to, which means I get to fill this in. Okay, next I've got y equals 3x, but only for x is less than -1. So I'm going to go ahead and draw my line there. That's the edge of the domain, -1. And the line is y equals 3x. Now that's 3x plus 0, so the y-intercept is 0. But look, my domain is less than -1, and I'm on the greater than side, so I can't actually put a point here. But what I can do is follow the slope, 3 or 3 over 1, which means up 3 and right 1. But I went the wrong way. I'm going away from the domain, right? So I need to be on this side. So instead of going up and right, let's go down 3 and left 1. And now we're on the edge of the domain. Let's put a circle there. And then down 3 and left 1 again. And that is what that piece looks like. And it's less than but not equal to. So I want to leave that circle open. The other line, the other piece of this graph is y equals -2. So that's a horizontal line down 2. But I can only graph it on the greater than side of -1. So let's start here where x is -1 and put a circle. And I can graph this horizontal line, y equals -2, only on the greater than side of the x value, -1. But it's greater than or equal to, so we get to fill this one in. And our last graph has 3 pieces. So here we're going to graph y equals -2. So that's a horizontal line, but only to the less than side of x equals 0. So here's our dividing line here. So only to the left, so less than 0, we can graph y equals -2. So y equals -2, I'm going to put a circle right here, and I'm going to graph that horizontal line to the less than side, the left side. Then I need to see if I should fill that in. It's less than but not equal to, so I'm going to leave that open. My next part is y equals x plus 1, but only for x values between 0 and 3. So from 0 up to 3, I'm going to graph this next piece. Okay, and the line is x plus 1, so the y-intercept is 1, and that's right on the edge of my domain, so I'm going to put a circle there. And the slope is 1, so up 1 and right 1. And here I get to the other edge of the domain, so I'll put a circle there. And I can connect those. And look, it is x is greater than or equal to 0, so I get to fill in that circle. X is less than or equal to 3, so I get to fill in that circle also. And last is a horizontal line y equals 4, but only to the greater than side, to the right side of x equals 3. So it is a horizontal line up 4, so that's going to be right here. Now I should put a circle there, and I'm not going to fill it in, but it already is filled in from the last one, so that's okay. It's just going to stay filled in and off to the right. And that is the last piece of that graph.